Here is the key to the task you have been working with. So your task was to rewrite this first paragraph in a more objective style, because as we can see, this is very personal. And as we know, personal is not academic, it's not formal. So we have to try and avoid certain expressions. And you see I've used yellow here to mark certain expressions that are very personal because of personal pronouns, so I, you, and also because it's like very personal when it comes to like being explicit about your opinion. I would call what I mean, I always feel, I always consider. So we want to skip the pronouns and we want to not assert our personal opinions. But at the same time, since this is something that I feel or I think, I can't just take away that and say that this is the case either. So if we take a look at the rewritten paragraph, then you can say that for the first sentence reads, I would call Wagner a subjective artist. Instead of saying that, take myself out of the equation and I say Wagner was what might be called a subjective artist. So I focus on Wagner instead of me. And then I've taken out what I mean is that, and I've just exchanged that with in that. So I'm sort of specifying, because that's what I mean is that you're trying to sort of elaborate on what you mean. So I can do that by simply saying in that. And again, here I say I always feel. Instead I say his work seems. And I always consider, instead of saying that, I say it can be considered. And instead of you can see that, you can say he seems to. So you see what I've done here in this second paragraph is that I've taken away all these personal pronouns, and I've taken away my explicit sort of opinion. And now I haven't just said that instead of saying I would call Wagner a subjective artist, I haven't said that Wagner was a subjective artist, because again, it is my personal opinion. But I've camouflaged it and I've said what might be called. And this is another feature of academic writing, which is called hedging. Now, what is hedging? Well, hedging means that you use cautious, or we cannot maybe even call it vague, although I don't want to sort of say that you should fill up your academic essays with a lot of vague claims and vague language, but vague in the sense that you're honest with your readers about the strength of your claims. So of course, if I said Wagner was a subjective artist, that would be less vague than might be called. But I don't know, if it's not a fact, if it's an interpretation, I have to be a bit more vague. So vague in this sense is positive. It just means that you're cautious. So if you're not 100% certain, or if there isn't sort of certainty in the research or what you've studied, like if people disagree on it, then you could use these phrases like cautious language that you see several times here. Might be called, seems. I don't say that he is an objective artist. I say he can be considered. He seems to. So I'm being honest with my readers that, this isn't something that we know for certain, but it's a way of looking at things. So, but I talk more about hedging in another video, so I'm not going to go more into it here. But again, it's an example of something that is typical of academic writing. So if you look at the second paragraph, much more objective and much more academic than the first. Most of the same information is there. I've just sort of taken away these personal pronouns and these explicit opinions. And I've used a cautious language, hedging, to sort of make the text more objective.